Welcome, dear viewers, to a new episode of The Untold. I'm very sure everyone is really excited when it comes into today's episode. But first, at the beginning, let me welcome my co host, Day.
Thank you so much, Hiba. Thank you so much. And of course, dear viewers, welcome to this brand new episode, special episode, if you will, of The Untold. We're so happy to be hosting in this beautiful occasion.
Yes, it's the Gulf Summit itself. And, dealing with such a beautiful occasion, it really shows the unity that's happening in the GCC country as usual. This is not something new, but it's very beautiful because everyone is united, discussing more about the future of the GCC countries, where it's going to be very, very brightful as usual.
Yes, hopefully. And of course, with this occasion, we are having one Omani guest, actually a presenter here in Kuwait, living in Kuwait for his almost whole life. And we're going to be sharing the relationship between the GCC countries in Kuwait. So we're so happy and excited. So stay with us, dear viewers. We'll be back with our guest. Welcome back to the studio, dear viewers, and of course, we would like to welcome our guest of the day. How are you doing, Mr. Homoud?
I'm doing fine. How are you guys?
We are doing good, and we're so happy to have you with us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor.
Really excited to know more about you, and I'm very sure even our dear viewers would like to know more specific details. So please do tell us today about yourself.
It's my first time to be interviewed and talk about myself, but
usually it's the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. Usually I interview people, but it's a special occasion, and I'm happy to talk about my country, Oman, and my personality and my career.
And we're really excited to know more about this in
Thank you.
Definitely. Sure. And I really would like to mention this. You can go ahead and ask us. Feel free, because the three of us, we're in the same team. We're in the same field. So you can freely ask us and we can discuss anything in your mind. So basically, as far as I know, you were born and raised here in Kuwait.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you have been here your whole life. So basically, you might have, some incidents or stories that you would like to share with us regarding this matter.
I have a lot of stories, but specifically I'd like to talk about my childhood. I was born and raised in Kuwait. My father was born and raised in Kuwait, and also my grandfather was born and raised in Kuwait. So I'm living in a dilemma, to be honest, between being a Kuwaiti character but with an Omani nationality. So I'm confused, especially at the age of 40, 41. So yeah.
Well, having that said, I mean, it's something very beautiful, but yet again, these countries and their great bond has been there, where everyone don't feel really they're much not in a country, like if Kuwait, a person go to Oman, they will feel they're in their country and vice versa, which is something very beautiful. And alhamdulillah that we have this beautiful, amazing relationship when it comes to...
Yes, a great bond.
Yes, to the GCC countries itself. So having that said, I'm very sure that the most confusion thing that you had is when it comes into exploring the culture, especially when it comes into the traditional outfit, the way that they wear the dishdasha and the, let's say, ghitra itself, it's really different. So tell us about this kind of confusion.
Okay. It's called in Oman kandura. The dishdasha is called kandura. If you say dishdasha, they will be mad. But it's called kandura. And some people wear, it's like a gafia in Kuwaiti. But it's called kimma. And the other one, the one like a turban, it's called musar. So basically it's ghitra, but
in a different way.
In a different way.
Different dialects, different naming.
Which is really interesting,
Definitely.
Even in Oman, like I've seen a video that even when it comes into the country itself, from an area to an area, there are even specific, let's say, terms and terminologies when it comes into, let's say, different, let's say, words that they actually use, which is something very beautiful to explore itself. I mean, it's beautiful with the nature and with the mountains and everything. So tell us about that kind of, let's say, exposure when it comes into Oman as a country, and even when it comes into, let's say, inviting people who still didn't visit Oman to actually go and explore.
You have to visit Oman at some point of your life, especially Salalah. Salalah is a very touristic destination nowadays, but Muscat and other zones too deserve to be visited by people.
Yeah.
The country is very nice. The weather is very stable throughout the year. Maybe it's a little bit humid, but overall it's really nice. The people are very kind and nice and generous in
Yes.
general.
Yes.
I'm sure everyone will visit Oman, will have a great time there.
Yes, and
Yeah.
this kind of experience.
Yes.
So, as far as I know, now you represent the unity of the Gulf, and of course, you might have a specific view, towards the Gulf countries.
Mhm.
So, what's your view towards this?
As someone who's born and raised in Kuwait from an Omani nationality, I think we are all in a melting pot in the GCC. We're like a big nation living in different countries with minimal changes and differences. Only dialects and a little bit of culture, but mainly we are one big nation that we live and we share the same bonds and we share the same heritage. So we're basically one nation. Yeah.
Yes.
100%
Yes,
agree.
100%. And this is where the beauty actually presents itself, is that when it comes into talking about the countries, and even when it comes into exposure beyond the GCC, once they start to, let's say, recall the connection that we have, and whether it's a culture, tradition, and so on, we can see that we are really connected together, as you just said, where you said it very beautifully, in a very, let's say, put together, being presented. So having that said, especially also when it comes into your own, let's say, work, and being a content creator and creating what you do, and you do it very magnificently.
Thank
So having that said, people sometimes would feel really eager to know, like he talks Kuwaiti, but he comes from
Exactly.
Oman, and this is where everything starts to, let's say, grab the attention of the audience. So tell us more about that. Like, did it manage to, let's say, make a very great success for you to be exposed to social media through this, let's say, aspect itself?
In social media, I talk in Kuwaiti most of the time. I also do voiceovers in Kuwaiti. Sometimes I feel like I'm more Kuwaiti than Omani, to be honest. But when I go to Oman, this is where the fun happens. They see me, they hear me talking, they think that I'm Kuwaiti.
Yeah.
But when I show them my ID, I'm Omani.
Yes.
So that's where the confusion goes. But overall, I think it's a nice coincidence, to be honest, in my life, to be living in Kuwait and getting the Kuwaiti character and spreading this character across the nation. Especially being an Omani person, I think I represent both countries in a very good way.
100%.
Inshallah, hopefully.
Without reading about you and doing my homework, I wouldn't know that you were Omani by
See?
this. Yeah, this is
This is what I'm talking about.
So when it comes into sports, like, do you cheer football or not a fan?
I'm not a sports guy.
Okay.
I'm a video game tech
Yeah.
guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Makes
because
both
because
of
we
us,
have the
gonna be
Gulf
friends.
the Gulf Cup
Yeah,
is
yeah,
coming,
yeah.
which is raises the point. Like, are you going to, let's say, cheer for Kuwait or Oman? Because this
Both
is
of
where the
them.
challenge.
Whoever wins,
Whoever
it's a win
wins,
for
yeah.
me. Yeah.
Because again, if you cheer for Kuwait or Oman or even any country in the GCC, we're cheering for everyone, and for the one who actually wins, we're gonna be, let's say, very happy and excited, because it's one of the things that unites us together. Like, talking more about being in the GCC country, being united, but even when it comes into sport and even comes into all of these great things that have been, let's say, being presented, we're always united in that matter, whether it's for success, happiness, and so on.
Yes,
Who do you think will win? That's a question.
Now that's a very, I would like to keep that kind of, let's
Your
say,
opinion for yourself,
information
alright.
for myself.
But in the end, we're gonna be cheering for everyone.
Exactly.
Just yes, definitely being there, us being there, it's a great way to support both teams, and this is what we can do for both. But of
Yeah.
course, I'm gonna be happy for Kuwait. Yes,
I'm happy because we're having the event here
Here
in
in
Kuwait.
Kuwait.
So that's the best
It's going
part.
to be
Yes.
very exciting,
Yeah.
to see everyone coming united, of course, when it comes into such a great occasion.
All right, so Hamoud, like, what are some key cultural practices or values you believe unites all the Gulf countries? I know you mentioned the tradition and some common stuff between the GCC countries, but in your opinion, what, like, one thing?
I think because we're one big nation from all times, there are some rules and regulations that actually broke all the differences between us. So when I was living in Kuwait at a younger age, until 18, let's say, I didn't actually feel that I'm different than any other Kuwaitis living in Kuwait. So basically, we have a very old heritage and culture that goes way beyond any limitations. So I don't think there's any difference, to be honest. But with time, maybe for me, I was exposed to both. So I know a little bit of being, let's say, an Omani or a GCC national living in Kuwait, and a part in Kuwait. So I think anyone from the GCC living in any other country in the GCC will feel the same way that I did.
You will feel home.
Yeah, you'll feel home.
Yeah, and this reminds me of something. I'm not really quite sure if you had that, both of you, and when it comes into education. Back in the days, we used to have the curriculum of the Emirates English,
Oh,
let's
yes.
say,
Yes,
book,
yes.
which was really, let's say, in a way, shows how effective it was to, let's say, have the support from different GCC countries. Also, when it comes into the curriculum, as we actually do and see when it comes into nowadays in the meetings and all of the conferences that's happening, that's trying to help each other when it comes into different kind of aspects of matter. So this was an example that I wanted to highlight, that back in the days we used to have that kind of curriculum, which was something very beautiful because we used to learn more about, and it was very great to show how, let's say, to illustrate the kind of system to be educated until we had our own curriculum when it comes into that matter. And still, some of the GCC countries, let's say, sightseeings or let's say occasions are actually presented within the curriculum itself, which shows, as we are focusing on the unity that we actually have together, which is something very beautiful in that matter
very
of sense.
Yes. And since you mentioned that you're into video games, also in terms of esports, also we got Omani teams and Kuwaiti teams all together, working together in these tournaments or competitions that happen within the GCC, also and outside the, globally, if you will. So basically, that's one good key thing to mention as well.
The first esport World Cup happened actually in Saudi this year.
Right.
Yes.
So
yes.
this gives you an idea that we're all, again, one big nation contributing to the success of every country. So I'm so proud. That's all I can say.
Definitely, we're all proud about having all these kind of things, especially opening servers and all these. Yes, it's happening here.
I go way back into my RC era, so I'm too old.
Yeah, and what's also beautiful is that when it comes into celebrating national days, I mean, we've been even, let's say, having Oman National Day here in Kuwait. We've seen the flags being presented.
Everywhere.
Also remarks something
Yes.
very beautiful. And even when it comes into Omanis coming here to Kuwait and visit, I mean, when it comes into that, I mean, you are here in Kuwait, and I'm very sure you feel like it's the country, and it is. But when it comes into, let's say, having people from Oman coming to Kuwait, the things that comes into your mind, since you are Oman who's living in Kuwait, the most important sightseeing or place for them to come and to enjoy, let's say.
In Kuwait, you have to go to Mbarkiya.
Definitely. Number one.
Definitely. And in Oman, you have to go to Souk Matrah.
Yes.
It's the equivalent of
Right.
Mbarkiya in Oman.
Which is something very beautiful, because in each GCC country, there is always a place
old,
that
yeah,
really
market.
shows how the country represents itself. So as you just said, I mean, it's very beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. So in terms of presenting here in Kuwait, did you face any challenges during, the field of work?
To be honest, I felt like home. The only challenge I faced is how to prove yourself in this very busy sector. Media is big, and it's full of talented people, and to stand out from the crowd is you need to work hard on yourself. I started with radio in 2005, and this was a leap of faith to me, because I was a petroleum engineer, and I decided to take a career jump, and I went to media because I felt like this is what I want to do. And here we are.
It happened. Well, that's very nice, and we're happy to have you as
Thank you.
one of us, right? All right. So basically, we have got more questions. We have got more to talk about. But first, we're gonna have this quick break, and then we'll be back. So stay with us, dear viewers.
And we are back, dear viewers, to continue with our guest. So, Ahmed, when it comes into dealing with being Omani, one of the most difficult things, especially if you're born in Kuwait, is that you always feel that you're from Kuwait, you're Kuwaiti citizens, until you reach the point that you discovered that you're Omani. So, tell us about that kind of, let's say, point. Like, do you remember when did actually that happen to you?
Yeah, exactly. It happened to me after graduating from the university. When you face the real world,
Yes.
getting a job and getting into a career, here you'll notice the difference. But before that, to be honest, I didn't feel that I'm Omani at all. I felt like I'm Kuwaiti.
So, talking more about being a content creator, and especially when we come into this great field that you're dealing with, there are lots of great, let's say, personalities that present themselves through this platform. But you could see and notice that it's very difficult and very different from a country to another, because the way they present themselves, the culture, the effect, everything, the let's say hub itself that's happening in the country does affect the content creator. So when it comes into you as a challenge being presented over here in Kuwait, since we are a very huge hub, to be honest, from my own point of view, if you post anything about food, restaurants, and places to go,
And cats.
then you are going to be, let's say, the best top one. Because us here in Kuwait, our culture, and especially for people who are really into knowing more about people and content creator, we always want to go outside and to enjoy our time and explore our, let's say, day when it comes into that. So tell us more about that kind of, let's say, concept. Like, how did you find yourself in creating the content that you're creating today?
First of all, I think I'm lucky to be born in Kuwait and to be working on media, especially in Kuwait, because Kuwait is a pioneer from the beginning of the GCC countries. Kuwait was one of the first countries to have a TV channel, a radio channel, and I think this affected me somehow. And to be honest, being exposed to all this type of media and content, it makes you choose exactly what you want to do and what to pursue in this career. It wasn't really hard, but radio as a foundation to me was a very essential movement. Yeah.
So you're into voice overs and radio more than
It was my beginning. It was my starting point. But it gave me a nice foundation to pursue any other type of media. I did TV, I did voiceover, I did even theatrical plays because I had this solid foundation of radio.
That's very nice. So basically, the landscape of the media in the Gulf, of course, definitely through the years, it was changed, right?
Yeah.
Through or maybe over the decades. So, in your view, since you have been in this field for a quite long time, what's the difference in your opinion, and like what changes happened through the content, the technology, maybe? So all these kind of things.
I think the internet affected media hugely. Nowadays, if you're following people in, let's say, Instagram on social media platforms, your time span, your attention span is very, very short now. From the first 3 seconds, if you didn't like the content, you'll just switch it off.
Next, yeah.
So it's a very tight and fast-paced content creating world we're living in right now. I think that's the major shift that happened between back then and now. Now it has to be fast, it has to be catchy, it has to be eye-popping. Yeah,
But
all of
this is in
those.
terms of the technology, but what about the content?
The content too. Let's say if you're into documentaries back then, you're ready to watch, let's say, a 2 hour documentary movie easily. But nowadays, when I tell you to watch a 7 minute maybe video on your phone, you'll say maybe I'll watch it later.
Yeah, yeah, totally right. And I do believe this is the concept of where are we watching it? Like if it's one of the, let's say, platforms being presented as a movie, let's say a private channels for movies, you will immediately watch any documentary, any kind of, let's say, a movie is because you are programmed that this application is for, let's say, hours. But when you're talking more about YouTube and Instagram and so on, these are the ones who need speed because these are the ones that everyone is, let's say, into it. Because even
You
when it
can
comes
get
into
back to it anytime,
yes,
anywhere, in any place.
yes,
But what's on screen on TV, it's there for this moment only. And yes,
exactly. I mean, even talking about YouTube, it used to be for the long videos. Nowadays, we have shorts.
shorts.
So
Yes.
even when it comes into transferring your content from Instagram to YouTube
Yeah,
for
basically,
a
in social
longer
media,
view,
they applied this to
yeah.
almost all platforms.
Yeah, so this is where the challenge starts to arise when it comes into content creators themselves, as you just said and
Yeah.
highlighted. So, being a content creator is a way for you to collaborate with different content creators in Kuwait, in Emirates, Oman, different kind of, let's say, region. So, haven't you thought about, let's say, collaborating with such, let's say, creators?
To be honest, I have a lot of ideas, and especially in collaborating with people. But maybe nowadays I'm focusing on myself more
Yes.
than anything else. Um, but it's a really nice timing for such ideas because it's easy as DMing someone in social media and telling him, let's do a podcast together, or let's go live together and share a story together.
Right.
So it's really nice and really easy to do nowadays.
Yes.
All right, Hamoud. So, as Kuwait hosts the most important Gulf summit happening, so where does it, or what does it mean to you actually, personally and professionally, let's say? And what do you think about the prosperity Kuwait is working on during these days?
To be honest, it's a really nice occasion that proves that building those bonds needs those type of connections, and especially a big summit, a huge summit like this, during such time in this world. I think it shows and showcases how strong we are as one nation, and to hear from different countries in the same time. To build the future, because the slogan is خليجي المستقبل خليجي.
Yes.
So it's basically a step forward and a step into the future, discussing where we're going and what's going to happen. And I think that's a beautiful thing to gather us all around this subject.
Yes, yes, indeed. And it's not something new, we've been always associated together, presenting this kind of, let's say, sense of matter of responsibility, of trying to always help one another and to develop the countries itself. And one of the most important thing and the greatest thing is that when it comes into having this kind of, let's say, summit itself, to discuss all of the aspects of, let's say, education, talking more about the development when it comes into business, the market, the industry itself, and different kind of concepts and aspects, which is something very beautiful. Because yet again, always there's a country in the GCC that rises in a sense, and also another one that rises in a different kind of, let's say, field.
Absolutely.
Connecting each other, having these expertise being presented on the table itself, having that kind of exchange, and to see everyone working together is something very beautiful.
Very beautiful.
Yes. So, how do you see social media plays a role in the unity of the Gulf countries in terms of new content, new technology, and all these fast stuff?
The best thing about social media is that you can follow any person anywhere in the world. So I think by following the right influencers from each country and sharing their work, because without sharing, there's actually no meaning to social media. The basic benefit of social media is sharing what you like in social media. So please take this as an advice and follow the right people and share their work, so we'll let the world see it.
Yes, yes,
You
indeed.
heard our man here. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So going back again to words, you of course being here in Kuwait and exploring Oman, when it comes into having these connection, to me one of the most important thing is the dessert. Talking about your favorite dessert, talking about what, because you never know the country until you taste their own dish, their own food, and how does it feels like, in order for you to feel that, you know what, I am really living the country itself. So to you, when it comes into having that kind of comparison, tell us more about how do you see, let's say, Kuwaiti dishes comparing to Omani dishes?
First of all, if there's two teams in food, the Kuwaiti team will win definitely. But Oman has some unique dishes too. And when it comes to dessert, you have to try the Omani halwa. They have different categories and different types and different colors and different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
You
whole
know,
world.
halwa is always significant, you know, to the country itself. And no matter what, like, it's not her signature, but you really feel it when you travel abroad and taste it. You feel that taste of the country itself, like the what they add for the ingredients itself compared to our own sweet, you know? Like, to me, for to be honest, sabal gefsha is the best when
Oh,
it comes to Kuwaiti dish. Like, do you agree?
yes,
I
I
don't want to
agree.
join the conversation
You don't
because
want?
I'm so
Oh,
hungry right now.
okay.
And but yeah, I mean, they're
Sabul
all
Gefsha
delicious.
is the winner, yeah.
Yes.
Yes. All right. So basically, an advice for the younger generation who are pursuing a media career, maybe from the all GCC countries.
um, Never let anyone or anything turn you down or just stop you from pursuing your dream. If you have it in you, if you feel it, just do what I did. I actually went and knocked the door on one of the first private radio stations in Kuwait, and I told them I want to be part of this. And they saw me as a crazy person in the beginning, but later on, I proved myself to be. Actually, I found myself in that career, and this
This
is
is
what
very
I
true.
advise people to do.
Yes.
Never stop.
It's beautiful advice and beautiful story. And I mean, we were so happy to have
Thank
this
you, guys.
conversation with you.
It was an honor, and thank you guys for having me.
Yep. Thank you so much. All right. So, dear viewers, we will take this quick break before we wrap the episode. So, stay with us. All right, with that being said, dear viewers, we have reached the end of this episode. We hope that you enjoyed every bit of it. What about you? Hiba?
Yes, indeed. I really did enjoy being here and, of course, hosting our guest and knowing more about his journey, being a Omani living in Kuwait. And hopefully, everyone, let's say, who's actually like our guest, being here in Kuwait since childhood, always remember that Kuwait is your home and we are here. Of course, everyone is united when it comes into that.
Definitely. Homoud is one of our, part of the family, part of Kuwait. So basically, we were so happy having him actually here with us. And yes, with that said, that's the end. So we hope to see you again in another episode of The Untold. Goodbye.